Folks, recently I watched a Netflix series called Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen, and this series was created by Haley Boston. This series has a total of 8 episodes, and in today's video, as we walk through the story of all 8 episodes, we'll also break down the many theories tied to it. So now with that said, let's roll the intro. So the first episode is called Never Get on One Knee, and at the start of this episode we meet a couple where the girl's name is Rachel and the guy's name is Nikki. These two are engaged and their wedding was set to happen in roughly a week at Nikki's parents' vacation cabin. This vacation cabin was in a pretty secluded area and snow was always falling in that place. Rachel didn't want a big wedding and Nikki clearly says that only close family will be at their wedding, maybe just 8 to 10 people. Anyway, right now Rachel and Nikki are on a road trip toward Nikki's hometown, and along the way Nikki tells her that the next town has a Coldie's shop, which isn't an ice cream shop, rather it's a custard shop. The owner of this shop chain was Larry Poole, who is accused of eliminating 3 women. This story sounds interesting to Rachel, and since she was getting sleepy while driving anyway, she starts listening to a podcast about the Larry Poole case. In the podcast, a woman is explaining how she was inside Larry Poole's truck, and at that time she was pregnant. The lady notices a Barbie doll's shoe near her leg, and because of this she starts to feel that maybe Larry has a daughter too. At a rest stop sign, the lady tells Larry to pull over, but folks, Larry attacks the lady's throat. The lady starts bleeding out on the side of the road, ready to slip away, but somehow she keeps herself conscious. Finally, other people passing by come to her aid and the lady pulls through. Now folks, while Rachel was listening to this podcast, she had sort of peeled the skin near her fingernail. Whatever the case, Rachel and Nikki pull over at a stop where Rachel inhales some substances. Then these two eat at a restaurant where, from Rachel's words, we understand that she's afraid of the procedure of delivering a baby because she kept saying that if she has kids in the future, she wants her baby, boy or girl, to be extremely tiny in size so it can be easily taken out. Now at this same restaurant, Rachel overhears 2 people talking, where the lady was repeatedly saying that one guy's dogs keep going missing, which is not common. He keeps bringing dogs because he loves dogs, but the dogs vanish. Hearing this, Rachel gets the feeling that maybe this guy is eliminating the dogs himself. Rachel tells Nikki here that her dad had a girlfriend whose daughter's name was Kathy. Kathy used to remember things from her past life, and folks, Rachel and Nikki talk quite a lot on this topic. Rachel's take was that when children are in the womb, they're in a different realm and every child is kind of haunted. But Nikki wasn't buying any of this. Now folks, these things I'm telling you aren't that crucial, but you'll often catch their subtle thread later in the story. Anyway, the two continue the road trip where in every tunnel they hold their breath, kind of a stupid game. Then they pull over at a rest area where a car was parked. Inside the car was only a child, and seeing this Rachel freaks out. Rachel goes to hunt for the child's parents in the washroom, but there was no one. Although in the washroom, Rachel does spot a Barbie doll's red shoe. This unsettles Rachel because she had heard about the Barbie shoe detail in the Larry Poole podcast too. Right then, the door of one of the washroom stalls swings open, and on the toilet lay an injured wolf that hadn't survived. Yes folks, looking at this wolf, it seemed as if it had chewed off its own leg, or maybe someone had attacked and finished off the wolf and there were maggots crawling on its body too. Rachel instantly sprints outside and tells Nikki to stay near the child's car so he can make sure the child is okay. Meanwhile, Rachel herself was going to drive off and get help because their phones had no signal whatsoever. So yes, Rachel sets off in her car, and along the way she spots a Coldie's custard outlet which was closed, and this rattles Rachel. Still, she pushes forward and reaches the Swan Dive bar and then steps inside. Outside the bar hung a closed sign. Still, Rachel steps inside where the whole bar was completely empty. But fortunately at the counter there was a worker whose name tag read Benjamin. Seeing the name tag, Rachel assumes the girl's name is Benjamin, but this girl explains that Benjamin is someone else's name, someone who used to work here. He wrapped things up by stringing himself up with an electrical cord in the bathroom, and the owner of this place is so cheap that he handed the same name tag to this girl. Whatever the case, we'll just call this girl Benjamin, and Rachel explains to Benjamin how a child is trapped inside an abandoned car nearby. Benjamin instantly goes to alert the police using the landline phone, while Rachel heads to the washroom to pee. While peeing, she looks up and an old man was peering down at her through the bathroom. This terrifies Rachel and she bolts outside. Outside, she spots the same old man again, who begins inching toward Rachel. When he gets close, Rachel stabs this old man's hand with her key. This old man doesn't react much, rather pulls the key out of his palm and then asks Rachel, "Are you sure he's the one?" Rachel was rattled by this point and she flees from there without giving an answer. Rachel drives back to Nikki and she spots bruise marks on Nikki's face. Nikki explains that the car's owners came back and they assumed Nikki was snatching their child, so they punched Nikki. But now the matter is sorted. The child is safe and these two can head out. Anyway, the two drive to Nikki's parents' cabin, and here to enter through the main gate there was a code 0817, which was Nikki's birthday. Now upon entering, Rachel realizes that this place wasn't some secluded cabin, rather it was more of a proper estate or mansion-like place, trees and snow stretched in every direction, and nestled in the middle of all this was a large home which was Nikki's family's estate. After this, Nikki and Rachel step inside the house, and this house was stunning from the inside too. The walls of the house held taxidermy dogs, and Nikki was like, many dogs have lived in their house and his dad is into taxidermy. Now for those who don't know taxidermy, let me tell you it's a process where the skin of a deceased animal is treated and an artificial structure is placed inside to give it back its completely lifelike shape and look, so it can be used for display, museum, or decoration. Nikki says you shouldn't look into the eyes of the taxidermy dogs because it makes the animal's spirit feel offended, kind of like a form of disrespect for the departed. After this, Rachel spots a wall painting that had portraits of every family member. In this family, besides Nikki's parents, there was his brother, the brother's second wife, and Nikki also had a sister. I'll introduce the family members to you properly in a bit, but for now let me just say that in this painting, Nikki's brother's first wife was originally there, but after the second wife came in, she was painted over the first wife. In fact, in this painting, one seat was empty, and on that seat, Rachel was probably going to be drawn. After this, Rachel and Nikki head to their room where a bear was hung up after a taxidermy process. From their conversation, we learn that Rachel's mother had probably slipped away back when Rachel was born. Since then, Rachel was raised by her father, but right now, Rachel isn't in contact with her father, as Rachel believes her father wasn't mentally well. In fact, Rachel hadn't even invited her father to the wedding. Anyway, after settling in, Rachel explores the house and ends up reaching the kitchen. In the kitchen was Nikki's younger sister Portia, then Nikki's brother Jules, and Jules's second wife Nell was also there. All of them were meeting Rachel for the first time and their reaction was mixed. I mean, they were showing happiness, but on everyone's face there was also a doubt or skepticism. During the conversation, Portia starts saying that something evil lives in the nearby forest. Hearing this from Portia, Jules was like, "We won't tell Rachel that tale," but Portia wanted to tell this tale. Jules and Nell slip away from there and Portia tells Rachel the tale alone. Portia explains that when Jules was little, he was wandering the woods alone. Then he hears the sound of a woman screaming. No matter where Jules ran, the sound kept getting closer, and that's when Jules saw the sorry man. In front of the sorry man was a bloodied woman, and the sorry man was tearing open the woman's stomach with his clawed hands. Jules was watching everything hidden away, and this sorry man was repeatedly saying, "I am sorry," while weeping, but he completely tore that bloodied woman apart and ended her. Sometime later, Jules managed to get out of there, and Jules believes that the sorry man searches for his long-lost wife in other women, and that's why he rips apart other women to search for his wife. They say the sorry man comes after brides-to-be, and he's drawn to the crimson fluid. Just then, Rachel suddenly spots a child between them, and this is actually Jules' son named Jude. Jude was pretty shaken after hearing the sorry man tale, and Portia takes him with her. Anyway, Rachel heads to her room and tells Nikki about this tale. And Nikki was like, his brother Jules really did go missing in the woods once. Then he came back after a long time and he told the sorry man tale. Since then, Jules has changed a lot, and talking about the sorry man is forbidden in their house. Although Nikki was sure the sorry man tale is fake, something Jules cooked up to scare the others. At this point, Rachel starts tearing up a little because she was feeling that something very bad is going to happen. And this feeling had started getting very strong after arriving here. In fact, Rachel was afraid after hearing the sorry man tale, and so Nikki calms her down. The two get intimate, and here we understand that Rachel was still feeling that something bad is on the way. Now later that night, Rachel's sleep is broken by doors opening and closing, and while exploring the house, she reaches that door. After shutting the door, Rachel finds Nikki's mother Victoria standing in the middle of a portion of the house. Victoria touches Rachel in a strange way and says, "You are the next Mrs. Cunningham." Let me mention here that Nikki's family is the Cunningham family, meaning Cunningham is their surname. Right then, Nikki's father Boris Cunningham arrives and he takes Victoria back into the house while steadying her. After these two leave, Rachel was alone in this place where she notices some letters. One of these envelopes had arrived in her name, and so Rachel opens it. Inside the envelope was a wedding card, and on the back of it, written in bold red, was "Don't marry him." Right then, the crimson fluid starts leaking from Rachel's nose, and here is where the first episode ends. Now, the second episode is called Bride-Shaped Hole, and at the start of this episode, a text appears, 4 days until I do, meaning in 4 days, Nikki and Rachel's wedding is going to happen. We see the whole family at the dinner table, where Victoria says how Nikki is their beloved son, he is very sweet and pure. Then Victoria says Rachel has to preserve this innocent soul of Nikki, and folks, this strange speech by Victoria doesn't sit well with Rachel. After this, Rachel shows Nikki the "Don't marry him" card, and seeing this card, Nikki was in shock. Nikki figures that maybe it's some hater of his who is trying to poison Rachel against him. Moving on, when these two head to their room, Rachel's wedding dress was missing from the wardrobe. Yes, folks, Rachel was sure she had brought the wedding dress here, but Nikki feels that they probably left the dress at their friend's place, the friend whose house they had stopped at on the way over here. Now next, some strange things happen, like Rachel overhears Boris's voice where Boris was saying that last night he saw Victoria alone with Rachel. Hopefully Victoria hasn't spilled everything to Rachel, hopefully I got there in time. Hearing this, Rachel was sure that the people here are hiding something from her. Then in the hallway there were crimson streaks which Jude was looking at, and Rachel tells him that the crimson fluid came from her nose yesterday, so maybe these streaks came from that. Hearing this, Jude gets scared, saying because of Rachel's crimson fluid, the sorry man will come after him. Right then, Jules shows up and he tells Jude not to shout, as shouting is forbidden in this house. At this point, Boris arrives and he loses it on his son Jules because he had told Jules not to bring up the sorry man, but Jules' son Jude is talking about the sorry man. The situation gets even more awkward when Rachel calls Boris Dr. Cunningham, and Jules was like, "I'm also Dr. Cunningham." Overall, folks, Rachel was getting a strange, creepy vibe from Nikki's entire family. Anyway, everyone finds out that Rachel's wedding dress is missing, and Nikki was actually going back to Chicago to their friend's place to get her dress back. Keep in mind, there's no certainty that the dress was left at Nikki and Rachel's friend's place in Chicago. In fact, their friends weren't at home right now, so they couldn't confirm over the phone. Still, Nikki was ready to drive 8 hours to fetch the dress. So yes, Nikki sets off on the drive alone, while the other ladies of the house like Portia, Victoria, and Nell suggest that Rachel wear Victoria's old wedding dress for the wedding. Rachel can't bring herself to say no, and since today was the fitting day, Rachel has to try on this dress. Portia instantly makes cuts in the dress and does marking so that this dress fits Rachel perfectly, and folks, here we understand that Portia is kind of a control freak who wants everything absolutely perfect and on schedule. Portia and Victoria together also take off Rachel's necklace, which had Rachel's mom's engagement ring on it. Then Victoria slips a ring onto Rachel, saying this belongs to their great-great-grandmother Eleanor. Rachel says she already has an engagement ring that Nikki gave her, but Victoria, without hearing a word, removes Nikki's ring and slides her own ring onto Rachel. Folks, it felt like this wedding wasn't Rachel's, rather Victoria's, because here Rachel had no say at all. The biggest shock for Rachel comes when she finds out that around 100 people are coming to the wedding. Portia says they're all close family, and folks, this doesn't sit well with Rachel because she had specifically told Nikki that she wanted a small wedding. While they're talking, Portia starts opening a champagne and Rachel thinks the cork will hit her. This causes a little chaos in which Portia's hand hits the mirror and a glass shard lodges into her elbow. Nell immediately takes Portia to patch her up, and only Victoria and Rachel were left in the room. In this moment, Victoria gives Rachel a real pearl necklace to wear. Victoria starts saying that her great-grandmother gave this necklace to her grandmother, and her grandmother thought it was fake, but the way to tell a real pearl is by rubbing it on your tooth. If it feels rough, the pearls are real, and if it feels smooth, the pearls are fake. Victoria tells Rachel to rub the necklace on her tooth, and Rachel feels it rough, meaning it's real. Then Victoria puts the necklace on Rachel, then tears come to her eyes. Victoria says, "For what is going to happen to you two, I am so sorry," and folks, Rachel can't understand a thing. Tears come to Rachel's eyes too, and this moment turns into a strange, creepy one. Anyway, after all this, Rachel instantly calls Nikki and tells him how everyone here is behaving creepily and 100 guests are coming to the wedding. Nikki says he'll come back from his trip right away. At this moment, Rachel hears some kind of engine running outside, although she can't locate the machine. Then Rachel's attention drifts to under her bed where her own wedding dress cover was kept, meaning folks, she really had brought her own wedding dress and someone has hidden her dress. Rachel then spots a small piece of her original wedding dress on a dress in another room, and Rachel steps into this room. Inside the room were candles and such items as if they were all brought here for some kind of ritual. In fact, there was also a book titled The Practice of Supernatural supernatural ritual. Seeing all this, Rachel starts to feel that Nikki's family is going to sacrifice her, and Rachel becomes very afraid. Rachel instantly begins searching the house, where she hears Portia speaking ill of her, like how Rachel will ruin the entire event. At one point, Boris walks up to Rachel, who becomes emotional and starts saying, "This is my wife's wedding dress," then walks away. Moving on, Rachel goes looking for her dress and enters Jules's room, where she finds a strong sedative in Jules's cupboard. Right then, Jules arrives and acts very weirdly, saying that the wedding dress you're looking for is the one you're wearing right now. By this point, Rachel had fully freaked out and she starts calling Nikki, but Nikki wasn't picking up. At dinner time, Rachel was sitting completely silent and the others were asking her why she wasn't talking nor eating. Rachel asks them about the sound of a machine running she's been hearing since morning, so whose machine is this? Victoria says maybe the neighbors are running a snow clearing machine, but folks, Rachel can't take it anymore and she heads out of the house toward the sound of the machine. Inside the forest, Rachel reaches a tree where a puppet of a girl was hanging, and this puppet was wearing Rachel's wedding dress. Yes folks, seeing this scares Rachel greatly and she runs toward the sound of the machine. Finally, she spots a tent and inside she finds Boris digging a grave. Seeing this sight, Rachel was sure that she was going to be buried here, and she starts running. Boris chases after Rachel, and right then Nikki arrives by car. Rachel tells Nikki that they need to leave from here right now, but Nikki calms Rachel down. Nikki says Rachel should stay in the car and he'll go talk to his family himself. By this point, Nikki's entire family had come in front of the car and Nikki goes and talks to them. Then the scene cuts and the next scene was inside the house where Rachel was sitting with the whole family. At this point, Boris reveals that their wife Victoria, who is Nikki's mother, is not going to make it. Actually, she has an aggressive brain tumor and this family has tried every kind of treatment to cure this tumor, but nothing has worked. So Victoria decided she'll go out on her own terms. That's why the whole family had been planning Victoria's passing for some months, but suddenly Nikki told the family that he's going to marry Rachel. Nikki didn't know about his mom's condition, and in this situation, Victoria decided she'd attend this last family event and then be done. That's why folks, the entire family was being invited to this event, because this was going to be like Victoria's farewell event, like her last get-together before the final goodbye. Boris was operating the machine to dig Victoria's own grave, and that's why this family seemed a little sad. So finally, Rachel learned the whole truth, but still she asks why her wedding dress was on a puppet in the forest. Turns out this was the doing of little Jude, who was afraid of the sorry man tale, and he felt that the sorry man would take Rachel. So to save Rachel, he put her dress on a puppet of a girl and hung it in the forest, so that the sorry man would take the puppet instead of Rachel. Jules tells his son Jude that the sorry man is not real. Finally, Rachel chills out and Nikki was upset that his mom is ill. This is where the second episode ends. Now, the third episode is called I Will Light You on Fire, and at the start of this episode we are shown a night scene where we as viewers feel as if someone has broken into the Cunningham's house. He watches Boris doing taxidermy and then watches Rachel sleeping. Then the scene cuts and the next morning Rachel heads out and comes back with an I am sorry cake along with white lilies flowers so she can apologize to Nikki's family for acting strangely. I mean, Rachel literally has it written on the cake that sorry because I thought you all wanted to eliminate me. Seeing this cake, card and teddy, Jude was like, get me a video camera. Anyway, the mood of the house was a little lighter now, but we see Nikki looking troubled as he was consulting doctors from around the world so that somehow he could save his mom. Nikki wasn't ready to accept that his mom could give up and he wanted to save his mom by any means. Meanwhile, Portia was busy with the wedding decorations and preparations, where she was even snapping at Rachel, saying Rachel has no knowledge of flowers. She brought white lilies to apologize, which are funeral flowers. Then the wedding needs real flowers. Rachel needs to choose a song for her walking down the aisle moment, and so on. And by now, Rachel also decides that she will follow Portia's orders without questioning. On Portia's instructions, Rachel goes into the house and starts asking everyone whether they want fish or chicken on the wedding day. Moreover, Rachel starts to wonder that since family members haven't openly talked about Victoria's condition so far, maybe everyone is coping internally, which is not a good thing. Now next we see Jules, who is chilling in the bathtub, and then Nell comes into the bathroom. Nell tells him not to fall asleep in the bathtub, otherwise he could slip under. Now these two start to have a passive argument on this, and from this we viewers understand that Jules and Nell's relationship isn't good. According to Jules, Nell is always nagging him. While Nell's opinion is that Jules doesn't finish any task, he leaves everything half done. Jules speaks ill of Portia and Nikki here, and this quiet argument reaches a point where Jules tells his wife Nell, "Just drown me." He takes her hand, puts it on his head, and slides under the bathtub water. Right then Rachel arrives here, which breaks this strange moment. In front of Rachel too, the two argue a bit, and Nell says Jules doesn't deal with anything. He hasn't been able to deal with the fact that his mum won't be around in a month, nor has he been able to deal with the sorry man incident from his childhood. Anyway, Nell tells Rachel that she'll have chicken and Jules will have fish. After this event, we see Jude, who was trying to open a room in the house that was locked. Right then, Rachel meets him and she gives him a video recorder. Jude is happy about this, and after Jude leaves, we viewers see that the locked room opens. Anyway, after this, Rachel notices that Nicky is arguing with his father because he's accepting his mother's departure rather than treating her. Seeing all this, Rachel understands that no one in the family has coped with Victoria's decision, and so she calls a family meeting. Rachel tells everyone that they haven't processed Victoria's decision, and because of this, they're all using her wedding like Victoria's surrogate living funeral. Because of this, everyone is under pressure about the wedding, when actually all of them should be coping as a family with Victoria's decision. Rachel was kind of doing group therapy for everyone because she was doing a doctorate in behavioral psychology anyway. Jules and Portia initially reject the idea, but the others feel the idea is good, so finally everyone has to do group therapy. Rachel tells everyone to say things about Victoria that they feel, and Rachel had brought that wedding dress puppet to represent Victoria. Everyone here speaks their mind one by one, and after that everyone truly feels better. At the end of all this, these people burn that puppet and find closure. Now folks, between these events, Nell and Rachel have gotten a little closer through their conversations. In parallel to this, Jude was recording things with his video camera, and he reaches the same room that was previously locked. But to his surprise, the room was now open, and Jude goes inside with the camera. At one point, when Jude pans the camera, he finds an unknown man standing in the corner who looked quite creepy. Jude immediately runs away from there. Now that night, Rachel wakes up and she starts eating her own cake she brought, since no one else even touched the cake. Right then, we viewers are made to feel that someone has entered the house and he has come after Rachel. Then suddenly we see that a man covers Rachel's mouth and kidnaps her by taking her away. He successfully kidnaps Rachel, and this is where the third episode ends. Now the fourth episode is called The Witness, and at the start of this episode, Jude wakes up from his sleep and heads straight to Rachel's room. He finds Rachel missing, and after that he heads straight to his father Jules' room. Jude clearly tells his father that today he saw an unknown man in the house who could be the sorry man. The sorry man has taken Rachel away, and Jude also recorded the sorry man on his camera. Jules immediately watches his son's recording, and in this recording there was clearly the face of that unknown guy. Seeing this face, Jules was in shock, because this was really the sorry man whom Jules had seen in his childhood. Meaning folks, Jules' childhood tale was not a lie at all. Meanwhile, the sorry man had taken Rachel away, and he starts showing Rachel an old video recording inside his home on an old TV. This recording was from January 13th, 1997, and in the recording we see a couple where the lady's name is Alexandra and the man's name is Jay. Jay was the one who did these recordings, and we understand that Alexandra was actually pregnant with Jay's child. These two weren't married, so they wanted to get married before conceiving. For the wedding, they come to this exact town where Rachel is right now. These two stop at the Coldy's shop for ice cream, where the staff was very creepy. In fact, the staff got angry when these two asked for ice cream. The staff said, "We sell custard, not ice cream." Whatever the case, Jay and Alexandra leave the shop and come to Jay's house. Here, Alexandra was getting quite emotional, saying she feels that something very bad is about to happen. Folks, this is the same thing that Rachel was saying after coming to this place. Anyway, Jay reassures Alexandra that she shouldn't worry at all, and this bad feeling is coming because Alexandra's mother had always told her since childhood that if she got married, she wouldn't survive. Because of this, Alexandra's mind has been conditioned in a bad way, and she is feeling strange. Whatever the case, Alexandra gets ready for the wedding, and on January 13th, 1997, at roughly 3:34, the wedding rituals begin. The witness who came to the wedding asks in a very strange way, "Are you sure he's the one?" This again is similar to what an old man had asked Rachel at the bar. Anyway, ignoring the witness's words, Alexandra goes to get married, and finally she gets married to Jay. After this, the two come home, and as they kiss, Jay feels that the crimson fluid is leaking from Alexandra's nose. Jay runs to fetch a towel, but by then the crimson fluid had started leaking from Alexandra's nose, ears, eyes, everything, and she collapses. Jay doesn't understand a thing, and right in front of his eyes, Alexandra slips away. Jay somehow takes the baby girl out of Alexandra's belly, and folks, the baby girl was safe and sound. So yes, the sorry man was showing all this recording to Rachel, and here a big twist is revealed. This sorry man is a normal human who is actually Rachel's father. Yes folks, Jay had come to stop his daughter daughter Rachel from getting married, saying that there's a curse in his family line where women don't survive as soon as they get married. The same had happened with Rachel's mother Alexandra, and if Rachel gets married, the same will happen to her too. Jay says he had received Rachel's wedding invitation. I mean, Rachel hadn't sent one, so maybe he received the invitation card from Nikki's family. And Jay was the one who had sent the invitation card back with "Don't marry him" written in red too. At this point, Rachel lashes out at her father because first he kidnapped Rachel and brought her here, then he's telling her such a huge thing today. Moreover, Rachel didn't even believe that such a curse could really exist. Right then, Jules bursts into Jay's house with a gun, and he starts calling Jay the sorry man. Rachel calms Jules down, saying this is no sorry man, rather he is my father. Now at this point, it's revealed what Jules saw in his childhood. Actually, Jules had wandered into Jay's house while playing and he hid under the bed. Right then, Alexandra and Jay arrived home after their wedding, and suddenly Alexandra started slipping away. Jules witnessed everything with his own eyes as Jay couldn't do anything to save Alexandra. Then after Alexandra didn't make it, Jay cut open her belly with a knife and pulled little Rachel out alive. Jules had seen all this silently as a child where he couldn't understand a thing, and because Jay kept saying "I am sorry" over and over, Jules had started thinking of Jay as the sorry man. Moreover, while slipping away, Alexandra had seen a child hiding under the bed, and she had turned toward him and said, "Tell her it's real," meaning tell my daughter that this curse is real. Of course, Jules hadn't understood that back then. So yes, folks, a lot has become clear here, but the question is, does such a curse really exist on Rachel? Well, in the recording, Rachel had noticed that the witness had asked, "Are you sure he's the one?" And this same thing was asked to Rachel by an old man at the bar. With that, Rachel immediately goes back to the bar where she finds the old man seated at the drinks counter. The old man first calls Rachel by her name, then stabs her leg with a knife because Rachel had stabbed his hand, so this is his payback. Then the old man explains all about this curse in full detail. So a long time ago, a bride and groom loved each other very much, but before they could get married, the groom didn't survive while hunting. This left the bride in deep grief, and she went to straight up talk to Death, saying, "Bring my soulmate back." Death agreed to her request, but Death played his own trick here because he likes bargains. Death says, "I will bring your groom back, but only when you are absolutely certain that he is your true soulmate." The bride agreed, but folks, this deal wasn't simple. Death cursed the entire upcoming lineage of the bride with the same burden, meaning all the children the bride and groom have, if they get married to their real soulmate, then fine, otherwise they won't survive. This curse wasn't limited to just the bride and groom's children, rather it would rest on their children and the entire upcoming lineage. If you look at it, Death claimed the entire family line in exchange for saving one life, and this is how this curse reached this old man. We'll call this old man the witness, and the witness too one day met the love of his life. The day the witness was about to marry his lover, a mysterious man came and told him that you have to marry your true soulmate, and that too before sunset. Meaning, folks, here is another condition, which is the wedding must happen before sunset. The witness got scared and he left his own wedding and ran away. Now, because of doing this, the curse transferred to the witness's lover, Marianne. Yes, folks, this curse cannot even be stopped. I mean, if someone doesn't get married and no child is born further, then the curse should end because the family line itself ended. But no, Death was so cunning that if someone doesn't get married, like this old witness, the curse transfers to their lover, who in this case was Marianne. Marianne later got married to someone else named Thomas Harkin. Thomas Harkin was actually Rachel's great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. In fact, Rachel's full name is Rachel Harkin. Thomas and Marianne had kids, their kids had kids, so on and so forth, and everyone was told the same thing, that if you marry your true soulmate before sunset, then fine. Otherwise, if you marry the wrong one, you won't make it. And if you don't get married at all, well friend, you'll fall in love with someone and the curse will fall on them. Finally, this curse also came to Rachel's mom, Alexandra, where she married Jay and didn't make it, meaning Jay wasn't her true soulmate, but somehow Rachel was born, and now the same curse is also on Rachel. The witness says, "Death is following you, Rachel. Turn around and feel him." Here the camera pans as if some unseen force is staring at Rachel. The witness tells Death that Rachel has 2 more days now, meaning in 2 days her wedding is going to happen. Now at this point you might be thinking, if this witness old man has been around for so long, how is he still alive? Well, the witness explains that because he cheated the system, he was given the curse of immortality, meaning Death himself punished him with immortality, meaning he will never pass on and will witness every such wedding in Marianne's lineage. Although he's immortal, he can still feel pain. The witness says he had also warned Rachel's mother before her marriage, and he came to warn Rachel too. He comes to warn every cursed person before their marriage, because that's his job. The witness gives Rachel a form saying that if Nikki is truly her soulmate, and Rachel marries Nikki before sunset, she will be completely safe, then she should sign the form. If Rachel doesn't get married at all, the curse will go to Nikki's family, and Rachel will also become immortal like the witness and keep going around warning Nikki's future family line. At this point, Jay and Jules also enter the bar, and Jay confirms that the witness really had come to his wedding, and since then he hasn't aged at all in 30 years. After all this, Rachel heads out of the bar and finds a badge in the snow that read, "But Daddy, I want one." Folks, this is actually the tagline of the Coldies shop. Rachel takes this badge to the car where she tells Jules about it. Jules's childhood sorry man trauma had finally been resolved, but folks, Rachel was quite troubled about what she had to do next, and this is where the 4th episode ends. So the 5th episode is called I Think You Just Saved My Life, and the story of this episode starts exactly where the last episode ended, meaning Jules and Rachel are heading back home while talking about the curse and such. Rachel tells Jules that she is 92% sure that Nikki is her soulmate. Right now, Rachel doesn't tell Nikki about this curse, but Jules does tell his wife Nell about it. Rachel was under a lot of pressure because her wedding was in 2 days and she has to be sure that Nikki is her soulmate. Anyway, today before the wedding there was a get-together party at the house at which many of Nikki's family members come. Boris addresses all the guests and tells their love story about how he met Victoria by lucky chance in an emergency room. Hearing this, Rachel thinks she too met Nikki by luck like this, so maybe Rachel and Nikki really are soulmates. After the speech at the party, Rachel meets many of Nikki's relatives, and everyone was giving Rachel different pieces of advice before the wedding. Like some people were saying that for a couple to get closer they need to experience something traumatic together, then some people were saying that for a successful marriage intimacy is most important, and so on. Here Rachel also meets Nikki's cousin Kiki, who is always on Xanax medication, which keeps her mentally a little loopy. Kiki asks Rachel how she and Nikki met, and Rachel explains that a few years ago she was traveling all over the country to apply for graduate programs. Her last interview was at UT Austin, but Rachel wasn't feeling good from the inside. I mean, she was feeling like she probably shouldn't take this interview. Rachel had reached the airport boarding gate line, still feeling like something is wrong. It finally hits Rachel that if she gets on the plane, something very bad is going to happen. In this situation, Rachel starts freaking out, and by now everyone had boarded. The agent there was calling out Rachel's name and doing the final boarding and last call announcement, but Rachel wasn't boarding. Right then Nikki arrives, who was also going to be on that same plane, and he notices Rachel. The two talk, where Rachel says she's getting a bad feeling about boarding the plane. In this situation, Nikki was like he won't take the plane either, and these two can drive to their destination. So yes, this is how Nikki and Rachel met, and it's been 3+ years since that moment. Now they are a couple whose wedding is about to happen. So after talking to Kiki, Rachel starts telling many guests this story, and everyone liked this story quite a lot. Rachel had also started taking this story as her anchor in her own mind, like if she met Nikki in such a random way, then maybe Nikki really is her soulmate. It's also implied here that the flight had probably crashed or something, and Nikki had told Rachel that she saved his life. Now folks, Jules also hears this story and he asks Rachel for the exact timeline of this story. Rachel explains that all this happened 3 years ago during February. Hearing this, something clicks in Jules's mind, because he starts seeing some lies in this story. Like Jules's first question was, what was Nikki doing in Austin that day? Rachel says Nikki had told her that he was visiting some friend. This doesn't sit right with Jules, because on February 15th of the same year, Jules and Nell got married, which his own brother Nikki hadn't attended. So there's something fishy in this story, and Jules starts digging into past timelines, like Nikki's past girlfriend's Insta stalking, to figure out who Nikki was with during mid-February 3 years ago. In the middle of all this, one of Nikki's aunts has them play a strange game where Nikki and Rachel have to stare into each other's eyes continuously for 5 minutes. This game becomes quite tough for Rachel, as she was getting weird visions and thoughts of herself and others not making it. Meanwhile, Jules remembers that his brother Nikki used to date a girl named Nikki previously, then dated a girl named Molly, and before Rachel had also dated another girl. Nell knew that girl's name, but Nell tells Jules not to get involved in all this. Jules convinces Nell, saying maybe this is the purpose of his life, which is to save Rachel, because in childhood Rachel's mother had told him to tell her daughter about this curse. It's all fake. fate. Think about it, Jules being there in childhood where Rachel's mum slipped away and Rachel was born. This cannot be a coincidence, rather it's like fate. Nell also gets convinced and she tells Jules that Nikki's girlfriend before Rachel was named Stuart. Jules immediately looks up Stuart on Insta and Nikki's lie becomes clear to him. At the same time, Rachel was telling this same story to even more guests when Jules arrives and starts counter-questioning. Like, if Nikki and Rachel were going to be on the same flight and neither had boarded, then why was the airline staff only calling Rachel's name in the last boarding call? They should have been calling Nikki's name too, right? Hearing this, Rachel was stunned because she had never thought from this angle. Jules asks, "Did you two meet at the airport on February 15th? Rachel says yes, and Jules was like, "On the same day my wedding happened, which my brother Nicky didn't attend." Jules reveals that there's a photo of Nicky with his old girlfriend from Valentine's Day 3 years ago, meaning till then he was committed, and that too to a girl also named Nikki. That girl probably dumped Nicky on Valentine's Day, and Nicky had by then announced at his home that he was coming to Jules's wedding with his girlfriend. Nicky, being a perfectionist, couldn't bear going to his brother's wedding without a girlfriend after his announcement. Nicky is too concerned about his perfect image, and he's too codependent to even be single for 2 minutes. That's why he didn't catch the plane at the airport and was sitting there heartbroken. In fact, Nicky wasn't even on Rachel's same flight. His flight was going to California, not to Chicago, which is where Rachel was headed. Nicky must have seen Rachel freaking out at the airport, and on the rebound from his old relationship breaking up, he hit on Rachel, and somehow Rachel fell for it too. Then he made up the false story that we were on the same flight. The flight crashed, but you saved my life and all, while the flight hadn't crashed at all. Hearing all this, Rachel was shocked because the one she was going to marry, thinking he was her soulmate, had lied to her about their very meeting. Remember, if Nicky isn't Rachel's soulmate, Rachel won't make it after the wedding. At this moment, a physical fight breaks out between Jules and Nicky, and a whole scene plays out at the party. In the chaos, food falls on Rachel's dress and she runs to her room. Nicky follows Rachel and starts apologizing for this lie, but folks, Rachel had lost her patience by now. The two start arguing, and here it's revealed that Nicky was the one who invited Rachel's father to the wedding. This upsets Rachel more because Rachel didn't want to call her father. Meanwhile, Nicky's take was that there was no one from Rachel's family at the wedding, so he secretly invited Rachel's father. Overall, quite a few cracks had appeared in their relationship, and now Rachel wasn't completely sure whether Nicky really is her soulmate. After this, Rachel goes to the family dinner in her dirty clothes, and there she drinks a lot and announces in front of all the guests that Sunday is her wedding, and at her wedding she's going to not make it because of a curse. Rachel also reveals that if she doesn't get married, the curse will come upon Nicky's entire family. But Rachel won't let this happen because she will get married. Now, of course, everyone thinks Rachel is saying anything under the influence, but folks, we know this curse is real. This is where the 5th episode ends. Now, the 6th episode is called Last Night of Freedom, and at the start of the episode we see Nicky, who couldn't sleep the whole night because a lot of drama had happened at the party. Along with that, we see that some people were taking the family painting away so they could paint Rachel into it. Meanwhile, Rachel wakes Nell up and early in the morning heads out somewhere with her. These two go to the town's county clerk where all the people's birth and death records are kept. This place was closed on weekends, but Rachel picks the main door's lock and goes inside with Nell. Rachel's plan was that she would check all the birth, marriage, and death records of her family line so she could find any such person who got married after the curse and also survived. In case you're wondering, what if no one has actually survived after getting married? Well, Rachel's thought was that if her family line has continued all the way to her, then in the past some ancestor must have survived. Meanwhile, Nicky was calling Rachel over and over, but Rachel wasn't picking up his call. Nicky's father tells him that Rachel went somewhere with Nell early in the morning and hopefully she'll come back. We viewers also understand that Portia has planned a great bachelorette party for today, and since it's Portia's party, Rachel and Nell have to come on time, otherwise Portia's rage will come down on them. Meanwhile, the guys were going to go hunting for the bachelor party, and this includes Boris and his 2 sons, Jules and Nicky. Nicky initially doesn't want to go with Jules, but eventually he agrees. So yes, father and sons go hunting where the 3 of them together set traps to catch a fox. After setting the traps, Boris goes to pee when Jules and Nicky talk to each other. Nicky was blaming Jules because last night he ruined the entire party, and now Rachel is upset with Nicky. In response, Jules says he was just bringing the truth to light because he wanted to save Rachel. Jules adds further that this is Nicky's biggest problem, that he wants everything absolutely picture perfect, for which he'll go to any lengths. According to Nicky, his parents' relationship is absolutely perfect, and he too wanted a perfect, flawless relationship like that, for which he had made the incident of meeting Rachel seem like it was absolute fate when the truth was different. Hearing all this, Nikki was like, even if you put the Rachel thing aside, this family hides things from Nikki, like Jules knew about his mom's brain tumor. Still, neither Jules nor the parents told Nikki anything about it. To this, Jules says that Nikki is young, and that's why the parents have always protected him from any hardship. They knew the news of mother's brain tumor would hurt Nikki, so this news was hidden from Nikki. Jules deduces that because Nikki has always been in this protective shell, that's why everything seems perfect to him, and he chases after a perfect life which doesn't exist in reality. Hearing this, Nikki fires back that Jules and his wife Nell are always fighting. What kind of relationship is this? To this, Jules was like, even though we fight, the two of us are honest with each other and we communicate everything clearly. Here it's also discussed that Nell was previously Nikki's girlfriend, but Jules explains that he's liked Nell since he was only 21 years old. In the middle of this argument, Boris comes back and these guys check through the binoculars that a fox has gotten caught in their trap. This time it was Nikki's turn to hunt, and with this, Nikki heads toward the trap with the gun. With Nikki were Jules and Boris too, but folks, when these three reach the trap, they find only the fox's leg stuck in the trap. This means, folks, the fox chewed off its own leg to free itself and escaped. Meanwhile, Rachel and Nell had pulled tons of records and built the whole Harkin family tree. They had learned quite a few details. For example, when the curse fell on the witness's love Marianne, she married Thomas Harkin, and she survived, meaning the two were soulmates. They had 3 children, out of which 2 children continued the family without getting married, while one daughter, Carrie Harkin, got married on April 27, 1870, and she didn't make it on the same day due to brain hemorrhage. Then Virginia Harkin got married on November 1, 1947, and she also didn't make it the same day due to brain hemorrhage. From this, Rachel's conclusion was that if a person from their family has kids without getting married and lives their life, the curse doesn't work on them. This curse basically activates as soon as the marriage proposal is accepted. Rachel checks more records, like in her family line, Kathy Harkin got married on August 22, 1997, and she didn't make it on that same day. Then same was the case for Roger Harkin. In fact, Rachel's grandmother had her mum without any proposal or wedding, so she was safe. But grandmother's sister Lori got married and didn't make it the same day. The strangest thing here was that on every marriage form of the Harkin family, there was the same witness's signature, which is of course that same old witness who also gave Rachel the same form. Now as for Rachel, because she had already accepted the proposal and the wedding date was even fixed, she had to get married on the same day before sunset. If she doesn't get married, the curse will go straight to Nikki's family and Rachel will become the new witness. If Rachel gets married and Nikki is not her soulmate, then Rachel herself won't make it. Rachel was hoping to find one such ancestor of hers who both got married and didn't pass on the same day either. Nell keeps checking records and finally she finds one Arlene Harkin who was born in 1900, got married in 1922 and passed during 1979. Meaning, folks, this Arlene Harkin somehow escaped this curse, but how she did it, no one knows. Rachel now decides she'll talk to Arlene, but Arlene is no longer in this world. Well, Rachel's plan was to somehow try to contact Arlene's spirit. Here, Nell points out another strange thing, how all of Rachel's ancestors have come to this same town to get married, even if they had relocated anywhere. If you look at it, Rachel too was somehow getting married here. Meanwhile, Boris, Jules, and Nikki were searching for the fox to hunt because they believed that the fox couldn't have gone far in its injured state. But folks, the fox's blood-red footprints had ended near a water body. Because of this, Jules decides he'll head back home. But before leaving, he tells Nikki and his father Boris that he and Nell are going to get divorced. This was shocking news to them, and Jules tells them not to tell anyone else about it. Anyway, after this, Nikki and Boris split up to search for the fox in different directions. For a long time, they don't find the fox, and at one point, Nikki finds his father Boris sitting in the snow. Here, Boris tells Nikki that even though he's always presented it as if his and Victoria's relationship has been absolutely perfect, that's not the case at all. Boris reveals that Victoria has even cheated on him. Hearing this, Nikki was shocked because till now he had thought of his parents as absolutely perfect, but his illusion had shattered. Nikki runs home to confront his mom, and his mom starts explaining that she hides things from Nikki so she can protect him from this bad world. Victoria says this cheating thing was a long time ago and now everything is perfect. Nikki had lost his patience by this point and wasn't ready to accept accept that things were perfect. He starts arguing with his mom, and right then suddenly Nikki's mom loses consciousness because of her illness. Now in parallel to these events, Rachel and Nell come back home and go to attend the bachelorette party, but Portia was angry with them as they were very late. Portia gives Rachel a lot of grief, saying, "I'm doing so much but you're ungrateful and all." Eventually Rachel agrees to Portia's requests and goes to play her games, and one of these was summon the dead, meaning calling the departed and talking to them, and Portia knew the ritual for this. Rachel immediately has her ancestor Arlene Harkin summoned, and the planchette actually does move. Rachel immediately starts asking, "If you are Arlene, then tell me how to break this curse." Right after this, some unusual activities happen, like Rachel's hair rising in the air, the lights going out, and some unseen force entering their house. When the lights come on, we see crimson fluid leaking from Portia's nose because in the darkness this spirit had attacked Portia. Portia was quite worried that a scar might form on her face. Meanwhile, Rachel notices that on the board the letters had spelled "living dead." Anyway, this game gets shut down because Portia was injured, and now Rachel tries to play the game alone, but now she gets no response. Although we can clearly see that some kind of spirit has entered the house. Right then Nell comes into Rachel's room, and between these two conversations happen over the whole situation. Nell's belief was that if Rachel completely believes that Nikki is her soulmate, then maybe she can survive the curse. Rachel wasn't in agreement with this opinion, and during the conversation Nell reveals that she is going to divorce Jules. After this, Nell kisses Rachel here, and the two start kissing each other passionately. Right then suddenly Portia enters in a possessed state and separates them. Actually, Portia was possessed by Arlene's spirit, and she pulls Rachel in and starts saying something living, something dead, something stolen, something red. Then suddenly Portia comes back to her senses, and this is where the 6th episode ends. Now the 7th episode is called Something Living, Something Dead, Something Stolen, Something Red, and at the start of this episode we're told that there's now only 1 hour left for the wedding. Victoria is unconscious due to illness, and there's no certainty whether she'll wake up before the wedding. Family members are freaking out, where someone is saying the wedding should be called off. Meanwhile, someone is saying the wedding must happen no matter what. Portia already hates Rachel, and now she's blaming Rachel for everything, saying she's a curse for their family. Portia is also saying that last night Rachel had summoned the spirit of some departed lady who possessed Portia and injured her face. Rachel says she'll definitely get married, and she's hoping that by the time of the wedding Victoria will also regain consciousness. After this, Rachel immediately takes Nell with her to another room, saying she's figured out the exact ritual by which she can survive the marriage. Basically, something living, something dead, something stolen, something red is kind of a new version of something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. In the ritual book there's mention of this ritual where something living comes from the groom, something dead comes from the bride, something stolen from the mother-in-law, and something red from her adversary. If Rachel combines all these things and drinks it, then she automatically becomes Nikki's soulmate, even if she isn't a soulmate right now. This way their wedding will happen easily without any problem, and things will be sorted. Now, reading the book carefully, Nell understands that Rachel needs groom Nikki's seed, meaning his semen, then one of her own bones, some of the mother-in-law's hair, and her adversary's crimson fluid. Nell says that even if Rachel becomes Nikki's soulmate through this ritual, wouldn't there be some side effects? Won't Rachel get trapped forever in Nikki's charm, even if Nikki doesn't treat her well? Rachel understood these risks, but for her staying alive was more important than focusing on side effects. Rachel also says Nikki is probably a better person than her because last night Rachel was kind of getting intimate with Nell. Basically, Rachel had decided she would do this ritual, drink the potion, so she could become Nikki's soulmate. By this point, the guests had started arriving at the wedding, and among these guests that old witness had also come. Rachel hadn't even gotten ready yet, and was just running around so she could scrounge up the 4 items for the ritual. Rachel also meets the witness, who says at weddings there are 3 rings: the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. In the middle of all this, Jude loses Rachel and Nikki's wedding rings, and Rachel was also helping Jude find them. Meanwhile, Portia was separately troubled because the wedding time was almost here and Rachel hadn't even started getting ready. In short, folks, there was quite a lot of chaos going on here. Now, Rachel has a drink with the witness, then breaks the witness's glass with her glass, making crimson fluid leak from his hand. Rachel collects this blood, saying he is her adversary. By the way, Rachel had also considered Portia for the blood of adversary. Next, Rachel goes to her mother-in-law's room and cuts her hair, and right then Boris arrives here. Boris was worried because according to him, his wife probably won't wake up this time, as every time after passing out like this, she was getting weaker. Rachel listens to Boris's words, then quickly runs out of there to collect the other 2 items. Now for her bone, she calls Jules and Nell, so Jules Jules can operate on Rachel and cut off the smallest toe of her foot. This will act as her bone, and folks, after a lot of refusing, Jules finally does this operation. Note that Jules is a doctor like others in the family, and he properly removes Rachel's toe and hands it to her, then bandages her up too. After this, Rachel goes to find Nicky so she can collect his semen. Here in the hall, she sees the family painting in which Rachel had already been painted. Rachel also finds a coin in the hallway which we've been shown lying there in the house from the start of the episode. Rachel picks up this coin, then goes to Nicky's room. Nicky wasn't looking at Rachel. As per their beliefs, before the wedding ceremony, the groom shouldn't see the bride. Whatever the case, Rachel tells Nicky we'll get married and sort out our differences. Nicky also says sorry because he had lied before, and here the two start getting intimate. After getting intimate, Nicky says he started questioning this whole marriage because he was thinking this would be some kind of cathartic reunion, but in the past week many things have happened because of which the situation has changed. Like Nicky is finding out that his parents' relationship isn't solid, his mum isn't regaining consciousness and all. Rachel reassures Nicky that whatever happened, we have to leave it behind and move forward, and also have to get married. Right then, Portia calls Nicky from outside saying their mum Victoria has finally regained consciousness. Hearing this, Nicky is very happy and he goes to see his mum. As soon as Nicky leaves, Rachel collects Nicky's semen from her private part into a glass. Meaning, folks, Rachel had gotten the 4 items for the potion, and she mixes these 4 things in wine so she can drink it and become Nicky's soulmate. The potion is ready, Rachel just has to drink it, but at the last moment she doesn't drink the potion. Meanwhile, everyone is ready for the wedding because in 10 minutes the wedding will start. In fact, Victoria also gets ready for the wedding. Everyone goes to the wedding spot where all the guests are. The whole family is present except Rachel. Rachel is just holding that coin and she was thinking about something. This is where the 7th episode ends. Now the finale episode is called I Do, and here Rachel finally walks to the wedding spot. She's finally gotten ready and come, and this wedding was being officiated by Boris himself. Here Rachel says her vows, from which it's clear that she's finally accepted in her heart that Nicky is her soulmate. This is why Rachel didn't drink the potion either, and she's ready to take the risk with her life. After Rachel, Nicky also says his vows, and finally it was time when both of them had to accept the marriage, meaning say I do and put rings on each other. By the way, by now the rings had been found, and right now it was 12 noon. Today sunset was at 4:44 p.m, meaning these two have to get married before that. So first Rachel says I do and accepts the marriage, but just as it becomes Nicky's turn, he looks absolutely confused and doesn't say I do. Yes folks, from this, gossip begins among the guests and all the people, and the situation is so tense that the wedding has to be paused for some time so the bride and groom can talk to each other about their problems. Rachel gets very angry and she runs to a room. Meanwhile, Nicky follows her. Nicky says he wants to stay with Rachel always, but he wants to break customs like marriage. Nicky has recently found out about his mom and dad, that their marriage isn't perfect either, so there's no need to get married. These two can stay together like this. To this, Rachel gets angry, saying that in Boris and Victoria's case, Boris is a hopeless romantic who chases after Victoria. Meanwhile, Victoria probably doesn't even love Boris as much. She is a narcissist, that's why she even cheated on Boris. Hearing this, Nicky was like, same as our case, right? I chase after you, keep accommodating you. Ever since you've come here, you keep saying that something very bad is going to happen. You suspected my family of wanting to eliminate you. Still, I put up with everything. You're not making any sacrifice, and I'm just doing everything on my end. Hearing this, Rachel was like, there's a curse on me, for which I made a potion so I could become your soulmate, not leave it to fate. Still, I didn't drink the potion, rather I'm believing that you are my soulmate, but now the situation is such that I'm absolutely not sure that you are my soulmate. In fact, as for sacrifice, Rachel could actually have run away leaving this family, and the curse would have come on Nicky and his family. Still, Rachel didn't do that because she's worried about Nicky's family and she's sacrificing herself. Hearing this, Nicky says he doesn't believe in any such supernatural curse. Now folks, hearing this, Rachel fully freaks out because Rachel was like, Nicky doesn't even believe her words. There's no trust at all in this relationship. Here the two have a huge fight. Literally, they were fighting for hours, and remember, sunset time is 4:44 p.m. In the middle of all this, the guests had started getting bored waiting for them, and they had started drinking and dancing. The witness was chatting with the people around, and he was asking everyone the same question, do you think you two are soulmates? The witness even tells one guy that your coat is really nice, can I take it after the wedding? Basically folks, whenever the witness would witness some wedding, he would lift items from people there, like he took Rachel's mom's ring after her wedding when she didn't make it, someone's tie and all, and he would come dressed up in all those items and outfits to witness the next cursed wedding. In In the middle of all this, through the camera, we see the guests in a strange way, depicting that death has already arrived here and is watching everyone. Meanwhile, Nikki and Rachel's fight is still going on, and here I can't give you more details of the argument because it was like a family drama, but just imagine how much they must have been fighting that it's almost 4 from 12 noon. In between, Portia and the others come to meet them, but they keep shooing them away. Meanwhile, Portia has gotten to the point of fully blaming Rachel and calling her a cursed woman. Finally, Victoria herself comes and convinces Nikki for the wedding, and Nikki agrees. But now Rachel starts to flip. I mean, folks, at this point you'll start getting annoyed with the main characters of the show for how many wrong decisions these two will make in a day. Meanwhile, the witness is watching the sun go down, and if the wedding isn't done before 4:44, the curse will fall on Nikki's family. So while arguing, the time hits 4:45, which means that Nikki and Rachel didn't get married within the right time. As a consequence of this, the curse falls on Nikki's family, not just the close family, but rather everyone in the entire family. All the guests who came here were family members, and the effect of the curse starts showing immediately. Yes, folks, from camera movements, we're made to feel that death will now take out all those in Nikki's family who are not with their soulmates. And before our eyes, the crimson fluid starts leaking from many guests' noses, eyes, ears. Here, total chaos breaks out, and we also see the crimson fluid leaking from Victoria's nose. Now, the surprising part was that crimson fluid also starts leaking from Portia's nose, as Portia was secretly married. Yes, folks, Portia's mom and dad didn't know about this, but she had secretly gotten married once, then divorced, and finally got secretly married to someone in Vegas. Of course, Portia wouldn't consider him her soulmate, and that's why crimson fluid started leaking from her nose too. Little Jude sees all this, and Jules locks his son Jude in one room of the house, saying, "Just sit there and watch TV and don't come out." Now, another surprise was that Jules and Nell were not affected by this curse, meaning these two are each other's soulmates, even though both were on the verge of divorce. Slowly, many people were being eliminated, which was a very terrifying scene. Coming to Rachel and Nikki, they have made 1,000 wrong decisions by now, so they finally make one more wrong decision. This was that finally both of them get ready to marry, thinking maybe the curse will reverse. Rachel wasn't sure even now, but she had already said "I do." In this situation, Nikki says "I do" in front of his father and the remaining family members, and the wedding is accomplished. As this happens, crimson fluid starts leaking from Rachel's nose and eyes, and she goes to the open area of the house. She collapses bloodied and doesn't make it, and this means that the curse is now both on Nikki's family, and Rachel has also been eliminated. Portia didn't survive either, and by now all the people who had to be taken out, all of them had been eliminated. We see the witness who is taking the coat off of that eliminated man whose coat he liked. Right then, Death comes behind the witness, and the witness welcomes Death while laughing, saying, "Finally, you've come for me too." We see the house's dog who was crying, seeing all this mayhem. Everyone was near their loved ones, crying, and Nikki was completely broken. Before our eyes, morning comes, and at this point we see the witness pass on. How? Well, because now a new witness had been born who was none other than Rachel. Yes, folks, Rachel suddenly rises, and Nikki also sees her coming back to life. Rachel meets Jude and tells him what happened here was very bad, but remember that it was real. The curse is now on your family, even on you, and as the witness I will definitely come to see your wedding. Just remember who you choose to marry. After this, Rachel goes to the old witness who had passed on, and he had written on the table in blood, "Your turn." Rachel picks up her wedding cake topper, then takes many old collected items from near the old witness. Then she takes his box and heads out of there, as she has become the new witness, which means she is immortal. Rachel drives off in the car while smoking and places the wedding topper on the car's dashboard. Behind the car are tied "Just Married" and empty cans, and Rachel laughs and enjoys the song. This is where the series ends. So folks, this was the whole story of the Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen series, and by now you must be pretty confused about the ending. But don't worry, because now we're going to talk about many theories connected to this series. So the most central and fascinating thing of this series is that generational curse that's on Rachel's entire family line, and its origin is quite old. Many years ago, a bride's husband-to-be didn't survive a hunting accident before their wedding. The bride was so broken that she went straight to Death and requested that her lover be brought back. Death accepted this request, but in his own special way, with a condition. The condition was that the bride must have complete certainty that this guy is her true soulmate, only then will the deal work. The bride said yes, but folks, Death didn't stop there. He transformed it into an even deeper punishment. The entire upcoming lineage of the bride would also have to live with this same burden. Everyone who is born into this cursed family and wants to marry must marry their true soulmate before sunset, otherwise they will not make it that very day. Now, this curse isn't just about marrying the wrong person. There are some other clauses inside this curse that make make it a whole system. The first is that this curse only activates when a family member gets engaged or intends to marry. If a person in the family line never gets engaged, never intends to marry, they personally escape the curse, but they carry the curse and keep passing it on to their children. Rachel didn't know this loophole, which is why she got trapped in it. The second is that if an engaged person doesn't marry before sunset or decides not to marry, the curse transfers to the entire family line of their soon-to-be partner. And the third is that the core rule of the curse is a psychological one. Soulmate means you yourself have to believe with your whole heart that this is your soulmate, without any doubt. Verbal certainty or certainty taken under pressure doesn't work. It's about a true inner certainty. That's why when Nikki forcefully completed both of their wedding by slipping the ring onto Rachel's finger, Rachel didn't survive, because even then between them there wasn't that genuine mutual certainty. The witness's role in this whole system is like a very painful punishment. The witness, who was once a normal human, had left his soon-to-be wife Marianne at the altar and run away because he wasn't sure. Because of this, the curse passed on to Marianne's family, which later became the Harkin family, from which Rachel comes. Death gave the witness the punishment of immortality. He doesn't pass on, but this meant he is forced to watch every single cursed wedding his whole life through. The witness brings a form that has to be signed, and he asks every engaged person, "Are you sure he's the one?" This question isn't just for warning, it's also a test. The witness himself knows that stopping this cycle is almost impossible, because those who take the curse seriously get scared, and those who don't are cursed anyway. He had also warned Rachel's mum Alexandra that day, as shown in the wedding tape, but she still didn't stop. Now, the biggest twist of the series was that in the end, Rachel, even after being eliminated, came back to life and became the new witness. Meanwhile, the old witness passed on. To understand this twist, a little more depth is needed. See, Rachel didn't drink the potion, meaning she moved forward while believing that Nikki really is her soulmate. But when Nikki refused to say "I do" during the ceremony, the sunset time passed and the curse transferred to the Cunningham family. Then in panic, Nikki forcefully put the ring on and said "I do," through which technically the wedding got completed. But by then, Rachel's certainty had been completely broken. Their fight had gone on for hours. Rachel had found out that Nikki doesn't trust her words, and doubt had filled inside Rachel. So when Nikki completed the ceremony, Rachel didn't make it because for her, Nikki was not the soulmate. Keep in mind, folks, the soulmate thing works like this, that you have to 100% truly believe that the one you're marrying is your soulmate. Even a slight doubt in your mind and this won't work. So yes, Nikki and Rachel's marriage happened after the 444 timeline, meaning technically the curse had come on the Cunningham family. But because Rachel also got married, the curse wasn't over her either. That's why Rachel didn't make it first after getting married. But then again, because she hadn't married by sunset, Death had already decided to make her his new witness. That's why even after not making it, Rachel came back to life as the witness. At one time, only one witness can exist, and that's why the old witness man finally passed on, which he had also wanted for ages. So yes, Rachel opened her eyes, got up, and warned Jude exactly what a witness does. This rebirth is also like Rachel's freedom in a way, and a new prison. Now she is immortal, doesn't fear passing on, but her own choice is gone. She can only be a witness in the lives of everyone else. The show's creator Haley Z. Boston herself has said that Rachel becoming a witness is like a breakup story. When we separate from a relationship, in a way those people are over for us, and Rachel literally experienced this. Now the next question is that when the curse came on the Cunningham family, why did Jules and Nell survive? Boris survived. Why were the others eliminated? Well, the answer to this is both simple and heartbreaking. When the curse transfers to a new family line, it only affects those who are already married and don't consider their partner to be their true soulmate. Jude, who is a child and isn't married yet, survives, but now he carries the curse for his future generations. Nell survived because she isn't from the Cunningham bloodline. She came into the family through marriage, but the curse only transfers within blood relatives. That's why Nell isn't personally affected, although many people believe Nell would have been affected by this curse, but she wasn't affected because she was Jules's soulmate. Now let's talk about Jules and Boris. Both survived, and the reason is that both genuinely considered their partners to be their soulmates. Boris chased after his wife Victoria for decades. He was a hopeless romantic who truly loved Victoria, despite Victoria's cheating and cold behavior. Boris's certainty wasn't fake. Jules and Nell's story is even more amazing. They fought with each other again and again. Things reached the point of divorce papers, but when the curse came, both of them survived. Because their fighting was based on honesty, both were completely transparent with each other. Jules was the one who finally did the real research on Rachel's curse. Nell helped him. Between them, there was a deep, real connection that wasn't visible on the surface. The show is telling us that soulmate doesn't mean a perfect relationship. Soulmate means the person whom you believe in with true certainty. In fact, in the ending episodes before the wedding, we could see Jules and Nell getting close to each other again. Now, Victoria and Portia both were eliminated. Victoria because she was a narcissist who probably never considered Boris her soulmate, and Portia because she had secretly gotten married twice, which she herself didn't consider her soulmate wedding. Actually, if you look at it, Nicky also survived because even though he had lied, even though he didn't say I do at the time of the wedding, he always wanted to stay with Rachel. It indicates that maybe he considered Rachel his soulmate and that's why he wasn't eliminated. Now, the entire Coldy's subplot in the series is a very clever red herring that showrunner Haley Z. Boston deliberately designed. Larry Poole, whose name became a symbol of fear throughout the series, ultimately didn't turn out to be directly connected to any supernatural plot. But it doesn't mean he was useless. Coldy's and Larry Poole fulfill a thematic purpose. For Rachel and her mother Alexandra, both of them, Larry Poole was an ominous presence, and both were making the most important decisions of their lives near that same dangerous area. Rachel had drawn Coldy's logo without ever seeing it during the first episode. I forgot to mention this in the explanation, but I'm telling you this now. This was a subtle hint that Rachel's mom's memories are somehow stored inside her in a genetic or supernatural way. The show's creator has said this connection was deliberately kept vague. Remember that inside Rachel there was also an unresolved trauma about having a baby, a glimpse of which we saw in the first episode, and that was because Rachel's mom Alexandra didn't make it and Rachel was born in a painful way. How? I've already told you. Barbie's red shoe. This is a recurring motif that creates psychological disorientation. There was one mention in the podcast, then the same shoe is found in the rest stop bathroom. Its job was to force viewers and Rachel both to think what the connection is and put them both in a strange feeling that all this has happened before, a kind of deja vu. The wolf chewing off its own leg. This is a powerful symbol. In the fox hunt scene, the fox chewed off its own leg to escape from the trap, and in the rest stop bathroom, Rachel had found a wounded wolf. Both these images symbolize the same thing: desperate freedom, becoming free even by destroying yourself. This is a metaphor for Rachel's journey to escape the curse. She was even willing to hurt herself, like cutting off her own toe for a potion. In a way, like the fox chewing off its own leg, giving up something of yourself to gain freedom. Now, at the end of episode 4, Rachel finds a Coldy's badge in the snow outside the bar that reads, "But Daddy, I want one," which was the Coldy's shop's tagline. And in episode 7, Rachel finds a coin in the house's hall that was shown lying on the floor throughout the entire episode until Rachel picked it up. Both these things touch on the same theme: generational memory and inherited experience. Rachel's mom Alexandra had also visited Coldy's during her wedding trip and had noticed a coin while leaving there. Now Rachel finds the same coin. This isn't a coincidence. This is the show's way of showing that Rachel and Alexandra's journey is walking on almost identical parallel paths. Same places, same omens, same feeling that something bad is about to happen. These things suggest that the curse isn't just physical, rather there's also a memory of a curse that passes physically, a kind of haunting DNA in which every cursed generation follows the footsteps of the generation before them without knowing. Also, many people believe that the coin denotes that death has now checked in. Getting a coin is an ancient symbol. In the old days, coins were placed on the eyes of those who had passed so they could go to the afterlife. When Rachel found that coin, it was a sign that her time was now up. Now, the title of the show itself comes from Rachel's supernatural gut feeling, the feeling that she often gets that something bad is about to happen. This feeling isn't random. In the entire Harkin family history, there's a pattern. Everyone on whom the curse activated felt an inexplicable dread beforehand. Alexandra had written on her wedding day that she has a feeling something bad is about to happen. Rachel also had the same feeling specifically after coming to this place. This feeling is a kind of warning system that comes with the curse. Death wants you to wake up, understand, but it's so vague that no one takes it seriously. Rachel's father Jay had also said he had taken Alexandra's fear as the result of her mother's conditioning, and Nikki made the same mistake, dismissing Rachel's feelings as anxiety or paranoia. The show is making a very important feminist point. Cursed women who trust their gut are dismissed as mad or difficult, and this very dismissal makes them more vulnerable. In the Harkin family tree, there's an important pattern. Those who had children without getting married personally escaped the curse. Rachel's grandmother raised her mom Alexandra without getting married. That's why grandma was safe. This loophole was clearly laid out in the show, but Rachel didn't know about it. And this is a great irony. If someone had told her this one simple thing, she could have stayed away from all this before even getting engaged. The sorry man mythology is the most emotionally smart reveal of this show. What Jules saw in childhood was something impossible for any child to process. A pregnant woman was not making it on her wedding day, and her husband Jay was repeatedly saying "I'm sorry" and trying to cut her belly with a knife to take the baby out. Jules had no context, no explanation, so his childhood mind built a myth: the sorry man, a creature who hunts women in forests and tears them apart. This is a very subtle commentary of the show that when there's no way to process trauma, it turns into a legend. And this legend spread throughout the Cunningham family. When Jules finally learned the truth, his fear of the sorry man ended because now he had context. The sorry man wasn't a monster, he was a broken father. The show's ending opens the door to a whole new story. Rachel is now the witness, she is immortal, and she will keep witnessing Jude's entire family line. Jude, who is now a child and has seen everything in the entire finale, he now carries the curse. Rachel clearly warned him to make his choice very carefully. But one disturbing question is that Jude has seen so much, will he ever be able to trust anyone? Just as Jules' sorry man trauma became a myth, Jude's experience will also shape his life. In Season 2, Rachel as the new witness will follow the Cunningham bloodline, and if the show continues, possibly in Jude's adult life when he falls in love with someone, that will be the next cursed story. Creator Boston has hinted that Rachel's character will be in a completely different role in Season 2, observer, not participant. Now folks, at this point, let's talk about some additional theories, which are small details throughout the series. For example, at the party episode, there's a very clever moment where Jules acts as if his birth happened to save Rachel. We viewers are made to feel that maybe Jules and Rachel are each other's soulmates, but folks, this was a red herring. A red herring is something that's deliberately placed to divert. You think this is an important clue, but actually it's just a distraction, so you stay away from the real twist. Anyway, now the taxidermy dogs in the Cunningham house, considering them just mere decoration would be wrong. In classical paintings, dogs are considered a symbol of marital fidelity. They represent loyalty and commitment. Boris does taxidermy, meaning he from the heart wants to preserve fidelity, keep it alive artificially. But the irony is that Victoria had cheated on Boris, so the fidelity symbols he was displaying in the house had already been broken, and then the same cycle repeats when a new dog comes into the Cunningham family, and it too eventually goes through the same fate, becomes taxidermied. This is a brutal visual metaphor that in this family every wedding, every relationship looks perfect and preserved on the outside but is already over on the inside. When Rachel arrived at the house, Nikki told her a family tradition that you shouldn't look into the eyes of the taxidermy dogs because it would be considered disrespectful to their spirit. This is an interesting family rule but has a deeper symbolic layer. Dogs are a symbol of marital fidelity, so not looking into their eyes would symbolically be don't face the truth of your own marriage, don't look at it directly. Boris all his life ignored Victoria's cheating, didn't look into her eyes metaphorically. Nikki too saw the truth of how he met Rachel and deliberately looked away. But when that party ants game happened and the two were forced to look into each other's eyes for 5 minutes, that's when a storm of questions rose inside Rachel. Looking into each other's eyes directly is facing the truth in this show, and in this family that was a taboo. In this show, the fox appears 3 times in different forms, and according to fan theories, these 3 are 3 phases of the same theme. The first fox at the rest stop bathroom on the toilet with maggots, pregnant, not surviving. This symbolizes Rachel's mom Alexandra, who didn't make it in pregnant state on her wedding day. The fox being pregnant and coming out from inside directly connects to Alexandra's passing and Rachel's birth. The second fox, which lay dead in the fields near the diner, some fans believe this may be a symbol for Rachel's grandmother, who herself stayed without marrying to escape the curse but left her daughter Alexandra in the curse. The third fox, which escaped by chewing off its own leg from the trap, this is Rachel, alive, free, but permanently altered. Just like the fox now has to walk on only 3 legs, Rachel now has immortality, but her own life is over, not to mention Rachel also cut off one of her toes. In the finale, when Rachel drives off, a fox's cry can be clearly heard in the background. This was the show's final confirmation that this symbol was complete. Another theory is that when Rachel tried to summon Arlene Harkin's spirit, on the board Living Dead was written. Most people directly connect this to Rachel's future witness role, that she's going to become the living dead. But another reading that fans propose is that the message was actually about the potion. When Dr. Cunningham talks about Victoria's illness, he says that every time Victoria passes out, a little more of her and her personality, a little more of herself is lost. lost, meaning the brain tumor is slowly not letting her remain who she was. Now, the potion's work would also be a similar psychological dissolution. Rachel would forcefully become Nikki's soulmate, meaning she wouldn't remain the Rachel she was, rather she'd become something else. The actual meaning of living dead could be this: you will physically remain alive, but whoever you are will end. Rachel herself was afraid of this, that the potion is a kind of willing passing on. And Rachel said again and again in the show that she wouldn't sacrifice her identity for anyone. That's why she didn't drink the potion, despite everything being ready. Barbie's red shoe, a recurring motif we've already discussed as being like a red herring, but there's another layer in this. One fan theory proposes that this is a twisted Cinderella reference. In the Cinderella story, the right shoe goes to the right person and the prince is found happily ever after. But in this show, finding a shoe isn't a signal of any good omen. Rather, every time after finding a shoe, something bad happens or is about to happen. Rachel found a shoe and found a wolf that didn't make it in the bathroom. Rachel's mum, Alexandra, in the context of the show, had to pass through the same area. This is a horror inversion of Cinderella. There's a search for a soulmate, there's a magical sunset deadline, and there's a curse that works like a spell. But where in Cinderella finding a shoe was a sign of reunion, here finding a shoe is a sign of incoming destruction. The show is also saying that the very idea of a fairy tale, that there will be a perfect person, perfect timing, perfect match, is dangerous. Rachel's entire journey is about breaking this very fairy tale expectation. An interesting theory that's been discussed a lot online is, if Nikki had said "I do" straight at the altar, what would have happened next? Well, I think in this case the curse wouldn't have fallen on the Cunningham family and Rachel would have been eliminated. Many people believe Rachel could have survived, but I don't believe so. What are your theories on this? Do tell me in the comments. So these were all the theories. If there's any other question in your mind, do ask in the comments, and if you have any new theories, also share those in the comments. If you liked the video, like and share it, and if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to us because we keep bringing such videos on our channel. Peace.